2 p.m. we calling the meeting to order. March 28, 2024, we calling this meeting to order. Did, the rest of the panel had a chance to check the minutes for February 21st, 2024? Any corrections?
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Because Liz, you said that, it was a great, Arbor Day was a great event, and that you said it was cold outside, but I have learned that it can be held inside.
Mhm.
So I know it doesn't have to do with the minutes, but just because it's on the subject, we don't have to stand outside of the cold. If we had an inside place to be, just for next year.
Okay.
Okay.
And just to, so we are open about it, we knew it was gonna be cold. We just wanted to have it in a place besides the women's club, because, the women's club, they told me that the only reason they had it there was because when they started this back in the 80s, no other facility was open, so they decided to have it there. But we think it's good to have it at the park. It is gonna be cold. So I don't know if you guys have any other ideas, but the women's club was, happy that it was not being conducted there. And, I thought I'm taking that responsibility that Eva Lyons, Historical Park is the right place to have this event. And if it just happened to rain or, be tremendously cold, then maybe we do have to have a second place. I have heard that in the past it's being not done because it rained, so I mean, we just have to explain it to the public. But I don't know if you guys agree with me, but the park is the right place to have it.
I do agree.
It's a beautiful park that we need to actually showcase. Okay, ready to, anybody wants to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
I'll second.
new business, the community flower grant.
Did we get an all aye for that?
All ayes.
Aye.
New business, the community flower grant.
Y'all see in your packet that, what did I find? Hello, can you hear me okay, Ms. Pat? You all right? In the packet, it says what we wanna do, but I need approval from y'all. The commission did approve the letter to go out to see if we can actually get the grant. This is just a fundamental of what we're thinking about maybe doing. Y'all don't have to approve on that part, but, the approval for the letter is important so that we can get it out to apply for the grant. Cynthia was thinking the butterfly because we are a monarch butterfly city. So she was thinking that, and I kind of agreed with her. We were down there, measured it, and I took, Jean down there yesterday and told her where we were gonna place it and what we were actually thinking on.
Was that the orange spray paint that was at the park? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And see the
Sorry,
picture.
what's that?
Because
After.
they mold.
We tried, we tried,
It's-
get the vision.
Yeah, we did, we tried.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the orange paint was, just there so we could see and take pictures of it, on actual, like, let's look at it, you know? But they mowed it since then, so that's why it's not there anymore. But so if I could just get approval on that letter, if you guys wanna add anything to the letter, let me know. If you wanna take something out, let me know. So that's what you're approving today, is just the approval on the letter.
So we approved it before discussions, or?
You can discuss it, you can do it however you wanna do it. Dan Dodge is here to speak on it as well.
Okay.
So if you wanna listen to him and
Do you
then
want to
discuss
listen
it.
to him first?
Whatever makes sense.
Okay, Dan, you can come forward.
Thank you, and I'm glad I'm keeping you company. So, I'm Dan Dodge, 218 South Main Street, and I'm here, as a, resident and also as vice president of the, St. John's, River Area Audubon Society. And let me start with that first. Let me just start with, I'm very excited about this project. I think it's a wonderful thing for the community. And, Liz, you and I have been talking for months now, because the Audubon Society is interested in assisting with putting in a natural garden in Crescent City. I'm sure as you're all aware of, the Audubon Society incorporated this area just over a year ago. And so prior to that, there wasn't an Audubon Society here. And so our Audubon Society has had experience in putting in gardens primarily in St. Augustine. So we're very excited with the possibility of working with you on this great project. And with that, I have some thoughts that I'd like to share. One is that given, and I understand this is probably very preliminary.
Yeah. It's not
It's
set,
just a
so-
concept.
Yeah.
So my first response is that according to this, there's too much hard service and less garden. There's too much hard service and less garden. It almost looks 50-50. The other is that Karen was kind enough to take me and show me the location. Has that changed, Karen?
It has not changed. We
Yeah.
haven't,
I have concerns about the location because as it was pointed out, much of it is in the conservation area where it slopes down, it's wet. And and it doesn't belong there. It should be pulled east out of that area. And that would give it a better flat area. Also, there's no shade there at all. So, anyway, we all know that during the summer, that, the summer heat burns plants. And so to maintain this in that location would take a great deal of care, particularly irrigation, but probably shade. I think in my opinion, it's gonna be too much sunlight. So I recommend looking at another site, perhaps closer to the beach, for instance. I'm delighted to see benches, and of course, the Audubon Society would be interested in plantings that would attract birds, which is very important to us. Bear with me for a moment. I live on Lake Stella, and we're very fortunate that the breeze that we get is very pleasant, but it's very strong. I'm not sure that, this original location is ideal for butterflies. I don't think they'll stick around, because of the breeze, as well. So those are my thoughts on the garden. Again, we at the Audubon Society are very excited and look forward to working with you on it if you accept our offer. We also have had, as I said, specialists work with us to develop our gardens elsewhere. Then I'd like to make some other general comments. The other concern that I have is that under code now, yards and lawns within the city must be mowed, must be kept. Well, the problem with that is that particularly this time of year, after the winter, a lot of flowers are blooming. And and of course, which helps, our wildlife, and particularly in this day of concerns for bees. It's a concern. It's the wrong thing for us to do. We ought to look at providing an alternative that allows for some growth. Obviously, we don't want overgrowth, but there's a medium in between that I think would work well for our city. And I'll give you another example. So we're fortunate to have sandhill cranes, and we have them year round. And the ones we have year round have colts. So I noticed last year that there was a pear and a colt, and there was high grass, about that high. It was perfect. It was perfect for nesting, for the safety of the birds, of the colts. And the next time I went by, it was all mowed. So I think there's a responsibility too to educate our public on protecting our wildlife. And again, the property owner might have been requested to mow it. So I think there's a lot of considerations that we should review and make changes to. Also, I am with of course, the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society, and I chair the Historic Preservation Committee. Just recently in one of our board meetings, the board agreed my recommendations that our goal is just not structures, but it is also trees. And the board agreed with me. So our organization is looking for the welfare of our beautiful heritage trees, the oaks, the cedars, and we would like to work with this committee to make some recommendations in the future for their preservation. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dan.
Any questions for me?
Do you have any other members for the Audubon Society here as residents in Crescent City?
I do.
Are you the only one?
No, there are quite a number here.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, Kevin Jordan is the director as well. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
So my question to the board is, do we first approve the letter to send and then we can scout a location?
Yeah, we can do that, we can do
Then
that.
as a group, we can invite these other groups to come with us and make a decision where we will want it to have this butterfly garden, that it will be a win-win,
Mhm.
that we put it in the right place from the beginning. When I was walking the trail, I noticed the paint, and it looked kind of cute, but I thought that it was right there exposed to the sun, and that was a concern to me. I don't know anything about butterfly gardens, so I didn't know if it might be too hot, or if we needed a tree or something, and I know right now it's like, we really don't know where we want it, so I think it would be a good idea to go ahead and forward with the letter, and then look in all these parks for the right place to set the butterfly park.
Karen, just to clarify, the letter just is to get an invitation to apply for the grant, so it's
Correct.
not actually applying for the grant yet. It's sort of a qualifier.
It's a pre-qualified thing.
But we don't have to have like a site and all
We
that
don't
in
have to-
stone.
No, we don't
Okay.
have to have anything set in stone. It's just a letter that needs to go, that needs to be approved first for you guys, from you, so I can send this letter in.
So
And
the-
then if they say yes, they'll
We go
accept
forward.
it. They will send us the application for the grant. And then that's when you have to have everything set in stone and you have to, do line by line.
And that's June, is that correct?
Yeah, I believe it's in June.
So we've got some time to
So we
figure it
have some
out.
time to figure out where you want to set it and all that. But the letter's very important to get out first, to get it in, and hopefully we'll get that application back.
But the letter's very specific. Can we revise the letter
Yeah, we can revise
and
it.
not put all the specifics in it?
Well, the specifics, we can revise it,
Because the Rotary Club did the Monarch destination,
right.
so it seems as though they're probably gonna do a butterfly garden somewhere.
They have not said anything to us about it.
Wouldn't that have been a criteria for the Monarch City, or not necessarily?
Dan?
You just apply and get approved?
Dan might know. He's a vegetarian.
Yeah, he's a Rotarian, so he would know.
You can tell we're a small village because I'm also a sergeant at arms.
Take your other hat.
So yes, it started with our club, and the club would be, again, delighted, I'm sure, to work with you to,
But they're not planning one of their own, are they?
Yeah,
no.
but to get the designation, that's not,
Requirement was not.
Requirement.
I don't think it was a requirement.
No,
no. Interesting.
again, I didn't lead this effort, I supported it, so I don't believe it was, but it could be.
I came up with the idea, I brought it to you, I brought it to the women's club, and when I spoke to you and the women's club, Tom from the Rotary was there, and he said he was interested if we ever did something over there. So we started with the three of us. So the Rotary said they will come on board with us if we got something going.
Yes, you're correct, and that's with finding a site for a garden.
Yes,
The idea of having Crescent City as a butterfly city started with two of our members in Rotary, two ladies.
Yeah.
Who brought it, and so that predated your meeting with Tom.
okay, because
And then, of course, my other request is that it's just not a butterfly garden, it's a natural garden. So if we could do that in our labeling and public relations, I think it would benefit, it would tell a better story.
yes, because my vision was seeing this lot behind the women's club that used to be a garden back in the day, maybe 40 years ago, that was not being used. I came, let's revitalize it, and when I brought the idea, the butterflies came to it, and the Rotary and the Audubon Society, it all come together. So,
And if you remember, you and I looked at it
yes,
several months ago, and I was in agreement with you.
yes, that, can we do something for everybody? Can we, all the clubs, join the Tree and Garden Committee to make this a reality?
So now we can go forward with that union. But I think it's also wise to look within the city where the best location is.
Yes,
Not concentrate on one part, but the others to come up with the best solution.
exactly.
Could I just have a clarification? Lisa, you said the three of us were willing, are you talking about the women's club?
That was my idea.
And the Rotary, and I don't know who the other third one is, was it Tree and Garden?
Well, what happened is I'm part of the Tree and Garden, and because I'm part of the women's club too, I decided that I will bring it to the women's club since it was their garden. If the tree and garden committee could come back there and take care of this little garden, but then it came, which I'm new at this, liability, who pays if somebody falls, trips and break a foot, and I didn't know that's so big, but it is big. I have to realize that nobody wants to take responsibility if somebody breaks a foot or something, so the women's club said, no.
And
Who's gonna be responsible for this garden if we build it back here?
And for, the clarity, the third was the Audubon Society at that time.
So that's why we still have the idea, but we're going a different route with the city, because the women's club, they just don't wanna be part of it.
So Jean, you said because you thought it was, you wanted to change something on it?
Yeah, I think it shouldn't have a location specified,
Okay, the location, I can put something else there,
so.
but everything else I think needs to be there. But the location we can change.
Everything else you took from an actual letter, the format to help us?
From what they're asking for is what is on here.
Okay.
So in each section, each highlighted section, like the black section, it needs to be on there. So if we change, the project overview, we can change that to recreation area, a butterfly garden.
To be designated?
So we can just take out Lake Stella Park,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And everything else,
Can stay.
what else is it? Thought I heard twice. In the conclusion too, we can just put butterfly garden and take out Lake Stella. I think that's the only thing that is actually,
I have a question about maintenance. I mean, has anybody discussed who's gonna maintain this? Would it be all the groups or the city, if it's on city property?
I think it was all the groups that said that they were gonna maintain it.
Including the
He
city.
raises his hand.
Yeah, including the city, so.
Well, my thing too was that I read, and we had a historical society meeting where, one of our members talked about the gardens in the past, and, we are tree and garden, and we do not have any gardens, but back in the 60s, there were many gardens in town. They had a flower shop, they sold flowers, and they have master gardeners, and I thought it would be a great idea to bring at least one garden, start with one garden back. That's why I thought we as a tree and garden committee will take care of this little plot of land, but I see that other people wanna be involved too, like the Rotary, the Audubon, and I forgot the other group. But we all decided that we will take care of this garden, or gardens.
Oh. When you say we, are you talking about the tree and garden board?
Yes,
Four of us.
yes,
We're gonna hand out gardening gloves, right?
yeah. And once a month we'll water it.
It's a wonderful idea, we tried it before with just a little garden out front. And two people worked their behinds off and received a little credit for it, but they killed themselves. I volunteered to do it once. And now there might be a hose, but it was horrendous. And it's impossible for just the 4 or 5 of us to take on that responsibility. It has to be probably Mr. Harris and his crew, and anybody else that likes to go and dabble, but it just can't be the responsibility of us, and it should be worded that way on paper. My feelings.
Mr. Harris, do you have a comment about maintenance for the city? The city's efforts in a community garden with their, no?
Do what we can.
Just, I guess we have to make sure wherever we do it, we have a spigot or something that somebody can bring a hose and hose it, not carry tops like in the past. And I'm telling you, out of the four of you, I know you might be very busy, I'm willing to be the one to go and check on this garden every week.
Well, keep in mind, that the commission will ultimately have to approve the location and the installation of the garden. So then it becomes, my responsibility to make sure the garden is maintained. So whether it's through coordinating volunteer efforts or, putting a crew out there, it'll be maintained.
That's why I think having too many gardens like this is gonna be problematic, maybe we'll start with one.
I highly recommend that you put in an irrigation system. I mean, that's gonna be, save a huge amount of labor. The grant says 25,000, there's certainly room in the budget to put it in. I also ask you again, not to refer to it as the butterfly garden, but the butterfly and natural garden.
Butterfly and natural garden?
Nice.
Yeah, it achieves much more than just the butterfly garden. Thank you.
So I think we would look for a motion, to approve, sending a letter with the changes as indicated, making it more generic in location. And then, a couple months to figure out location and figure out if we get to apply for the grant. We'll know that. Maybe a moot point at that point, but we'll find out. So we need a motion to be able to move this forward.
Okay, so I make a motion,
You can't.
again, I forgot, okay.
Cynthia can. Or does somebody else can,
I make a motion to approve the letter,
with changes.
I second. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to see the change letter before we approved it personally. But that's my thing.
I can send it to you once I'm done changing it.
That'd be good, you can do that.
I mean, I'm just to let you know that most of that has to stay in, and the thing that can change is the location.
And the new name, Butterfly and Natural Garden
Yeah, that's it.
Project.
The location, which is in the conclusion, is the only thing, and if you look on page 1 of your letter, of the letter itself, under project overview, that's another change, and it would be, recreation area of butterfly and natural garden. It will say that there,
Okay.
and then,
Meaning, so I'm getting confused, meaning you're gonna move it to the recreational area of the same way?
no.
No, the title.
I'm taking it out,
Recreational.
I'm taking it out, taking Lake Stella Park out,
Okay,
okay? I'm taking that out, I'm taking Lake Stella Park and out,
Not to specify.
okay? And then, community butterfly, and, on the next line, where it says project objectives, community butterfly and natural garden will go in there. Development, and then, I think that, turn to page 2, and under conclusion, on the very last line, the support for our butterfly and natural garden project is the only things that would be changing in that letter at all.
Is everybody all set with that?
Those are the changes that we made.
Yeah, clear.
The next item on your agenda is, I had heard you were talking about community gardens, probably at the beginning of this conversation, that came to butterfly gardens. And Sean Janess, I've asked him to come and speak to you. He has a lot of experience in community gardens. He and his family run the anchor business in downtown Eustis, the Peddler's Wagon. I've known him for actually all his life, just about. Beautiful store. I encourage you to go to downtown Eustis, go to the Peddler's Wagon. It's an amazing experience. You'll give yourself hours to be in there and browse the shop. But Sean has extensive knowledge and experience in setting up and running community gardens. And in fact, every time I go down and visit, he asks me, "You guys have a community garden?" So when I heard you talking about this opportunity, Sean, come up and tell us how it's done, show us the ins and outs, the ups and downs of a community garden. He's got some pictures to go through. They'll all load for us. And then he'll be happy to answer your questions.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Well, thank you for taking me into a time machine. It felt like 10 years ago when I was trying to create a pocket park. Everything you just said were all the same concerns. Everything was. Here, I'll go to the speaker for a little bit. So yeah, my name is Sean Jeunesse. I'm a local activist in my community. If you come to my town and start picking up rocks, you might find me underneath one. I've been building green spaces and public spaces in my community for about 15 years now. Right here is a picture of one of the first. This was the Pocket Park. The park is called Alexander Park. By looking at that picture, just to guess, how many times do you think we go out there and maintain that a year?
Looks very nice and green.
Just throw in a number.
At least once a week.
Okay, once a week, okay, once a week. Any other bidders?
Is it irrigated?
It used to be. Actually, it's no longer irrigated. So water's been turned off for about 5 years.
How old is it, did you say?
12 years now.
Okay.
The Pocket Park.
It's a former building site. The building burned down. It was just an old slab until they converted it into
We maintain that twice a year.
Twice a year.
Twice a
Wow.
year. Yeah. That's what you get with good design. And I'll show you the plants here real quick. This right here is American Beautyberry. So especially for our bird friends, that's a big winner. Right next door, I can never remember the Latin name, but this is what they call Moses in a basket. This is not native, however, it is Florida friendly. What this is creating here is that this is creating a moisture barrier to the soil. It's creating a natural ground cover. Okay, so we're having to irrigate it less, and then also it's adding an organic material back into the soil. Next to that, we have Liriopes. Behind that, we have Wolters viburnum. So anytime you have butterflies and critters and things like that, they love multiple layers because multiple layers will create small microclimates. And that's what you're looking for. You want small microclimates. So the butterfly or whatever the critter might be, depending on its life stage, will find little areas that it's able to kind of fit in its niche. Next door to that, we have firebush. Once again, not a Florida native, but this is from northern Mexico. This is actually the dwarf variety. Behind this wall, we have what they call podocarpus. And podocarpus, it's that little shrub you see. Amazing for lady beetles, any type of beneficial insects, wasps, stuff like that. You know, a lot of people think of wasps and they go, oh, we don't want wasps. When it comes to a garden, wasps are very good. Okay, so that's twice a year, that's maintenance. Kind of gives you an idea. Above that, we have a tabebuia above that. That's that little weed there that's on the far left side. And then, of course, that just pops in yellow. You know, it was just absolutely gorgeous when that blooms. Yeah, that's
Is this a shaded area? Or
No, oh lordy, no. This thing is beat down by the sun like you've never seen it.
So are we
It's a western
concerned,
facing wall.
are we concerned here with things that maybe will not be the apocalypse of a garden? Having it by the water, on the sun?
Oh, well, you do have certain things. So for example, being by the water, this is by a lake, but we're about a block away from the lake. The location that you guys were talking about before, I believe, is close to Dexter, right? Yep, it's like Dexter. I'll get to that later. When you start gardening, you have to start coming up with creative options. You start looking at things differently. You look at your neighbor's, pile of leaves, and it's no longer something for a landfill. You're now going, that's good ground cover, okay? So for example, on your beach, what is there? There's birds, there's goose. And what do the goose have? There's poop. That's rich nitrogen. And you could actually be doing two different things. So for example, when I was in Fairhope, Alabama, when I toured the city with their parks and, actually they have a entire botanical department. They have a horticultural expert. He was complaining to me saying, yeah, you know, we have all these geese and they're, you know, of course, defecating. What do we do? And I said, you have this amazing rose garden. Use it. You know, you don't have to be using 666 on your roses. Take what the geese are leaving you. And of course, that's cleaning up their swimming areas and such. So sometimes you just have to look at things a little different. You have to look at things creative, you know. The only thing I would say, being alongside the water like that, just keep in mind line of sight. You know, keep in mind the people who live there. And especially when I go, my main presentation is how to make these things happen. One of the main points is, yeah, make sure you talk to the people who live there and make sure they want that there, okay? So, anyway, these are some pictures. Now, anytime you guys want to shout out questions, please do so, okay? Sometimes I am a bit of a rambler, so if I start rambling, just let me know. So, community garden. First thing to have, in community gardens, you're talking about butterfly parks, you're talking about botanical gardens, natural parks, all these are community gardens. It takes both people, and then it takes the actual physical location. If you don't have the people, all you have is a garden. That's all you have. So you really need these two things kind of working in. The garden part itself is how people interact with the garden, okay? And that's one of the biggest things. So you want to talk to the neighbors who are around this future location. See what they want, okay? See what they need, what they want. For example, before we planted our community garden, our vegetable garden in Eustis, there was a field that a lot of our members of our committee was looking at. One afternoon, I just went down there with my lunch, and I noticed children were playing in this field. And I'm saying, if we built something here, we're gonna take away now what these kids will be playing in. So always just keep in mind what pre-existing activities are happening right now before you install something, okay? And it's always good to just walk around the town, sit down, have a lunch, have a little dinner, whatever, and just see how these spaces are being used. Your largest impact for any of these spaces is about a half a mile. Okay, so anywhere within a half a mile, that's your largest impact for all of it. Okay, we'll go down to the next pictures here. Okay, fine. Boop. So that's our vegetable garden right there in town. This couple here actually moved to Maine, so they're no longer with us. But the community garden here was actually planted about 8 years ago. I'd say about 8 years ago, this garden was planted. Our city was not very supportive of it. The only thing that really was pushing forward with it was just a few folks that really wanted to see this happen, as well as just the local people that were around the area. The area that this garden's in is pretty impoverished, a minority community. We also have a lot of public housing in that area as well. And so what was happening was that people who were trying to grow their food in their public housing, the landlord, not the landlord, but the maintenance guy would come in and just rip everything out. Especially one of my Puerto Rican friends actually, he was trying to plant what they call, it's tapioca, it's yucca. So he was trying to plant yucca. And of course they just kept thinking it was a weed, so they were just ripping it out. You know, he's like, stop pulling up my grandma's yucca, you know, my grandma's yucca. So we were able to kind of start planting it there.
Is that city property or school board property?
It is, yeah, this is city property. And same thing as well, you know, there was issues with liability, insurance, et cetera. We're covered under their umbrella policy for that. I think cost-wise, I don't think it's $10 a month, $5 a month, I think, for insurance. And once again, we do have it fenced, so we had very little issues.
Can you explain to me what's the umbrella policy?
It's a public liability insurance.
Okay.
So yeah, it's anything that would be, you know, covered if someone trips and falls on the sidewalk, whatever. So that's pretty much what it's covered for. If someone cuts their finger off from some shears, I don't know if that's accurate, that probably.
That's negligence.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Sandhill cranes. The sandhill cranes here. Biggest thing, especially with our little community our vegetable garden, is that we work with nature. So we have bird houses, bat houses. Also to our sandhill cranes will come to our garden, they'll pick up the grubs, etc. And that's one thing I'm always trying to work with my city is, once again, don't mow as much, you know, there's certain times of year, just let things kind of go. You also have amazing pollinator plants too, things like Bidens pilosa, Bidens alba. This is what our native bees, as well as our European bees is what you mostly find in apiaries producing honey. That's what they're now focused on for honey production. Since we've lost a lot of our ranges and we're also losing a lot of our natural ecosystem with scrub, our bees are now mostly dependent on these weeds. So Bidens pilosa and Bidens alba. It's probably in the sidewalk out here. It's a little white flower. You can eat it. It tastes just like a carrot. Yeah, it's really good for you actually. Here's another picture, cabbage, some overgrown tomato, some onions, what have you. This right here are just collard greens. This was during the early days of the plot.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, yeah.
Has that divided up, different people work?
It has, yeah. At this point in time, actually, so we're looking at about a year into the garden. This is only 2 people. This is myself and Mr. Robert. So there's really only 2 people that are doing this. The rest of the initial wave kind of fell off, and that's not uncommon at all. You know, you kind of have that good old fashioned, let's clean up the barn and put on a show, and you do it all, and then no one shows up, you know. And it's just part of it. It's part of the cycle, you know. So yeah, Mr. Robert here, he's planting a lot of his collard greens. He's giving it to his neighbors. He's giving it to his friends. I've got that little plot back there in the far left corner. You know, I've got some carrots and cabbages and things growing. These are bush beans with marigolds. Marigolds are very good, especially to deter nematodes. You know, any gardener in Florida knows nematodes. I can never remember, bok choy, it's one of those. Bok choy, yeah, there we go, bok choy. It's a great plant, a lot of fun, very pretty to look at, and same thing, just kind of fun little close-up. Kids love it, they just think it's the neatest thing ever. That and carrots, I've never seen kids eat carrots before. And there's Mr. Robert right there. He was really my mentor in this. When I first started, you know, here I was, college educated, thinking everything very scientific-y, and I'm spending hundreds of dollars in fertilizers and soil, and he's spending $4, and he's making even a larger yield than I was. So same thing, he was the one that kind of taught me, look at what's around you, you know, if you find a bunch of leaves piled up, use it. You know, just use what you have around you. That's one of the biggest things, especially when it comes to gardens of any type. It's always about the money. You know, where's the money coming from? Who has the money? When you do it right, it costs very little, very little. If you notice in the back, he has some flowers next to him. He's allowing his greens there to bolt, so he's producing seed for the next season. A lot of gardeners, they get rid of the flower because they think it's just not attractive. The same thing, amazing for pollination as well.
Do you have a composting pile or bin on site?
Yes, yes, we do.
Do you hold water too?
Do we what?
Do you hold rainwater?
No, we don't hold rainwater. I would like to hold rainwater, but that just comes, you have different issues with that. You have especially, you have issues with the mosquito. It's Aegypti, yeah, oh my goodness, hang on. Agi aegypti, that's a species of mosquito, which is pretty nasty. And especially in rain barrels, if you don't treat it, you don't kind of keep an eye on it, it causes issue. All this is just city water.
City water?
Yeah, we're using city water.
Do you pay your bill for the city water or?
No bill. And also too, even the folks who have the plots, that was one thing that I really pushed for, especially when we started this, no one pays a dime. Because the entire point of this is that you're really trying to get the folks who don't have the money for fresh food, you know? And once again, especially when you look at minority communities, that's where you find the diabetes, that's where you find obesity, that's where you find all this stuff. So we're just trying to get people to kind of start stepping away from more processed foods and kind of get back to the roots. Same plot, that's after Mr. Robert passed away. Yeah, so here we go. Right?
Yeah.
But it's okay, So even though for me, for a lot of folks, they look at this and they go, well, this is unsightly, this is a pollinator's habitat. This is what sandhill cranes love. This is what other birds, I mean, this is what just really drives ecology. And one of the most valuable things in all of this is your volunteers, your people. Don't ever underestimate your volunteers and your people, okay? It's not an infinite source, it's very finite, and just make sure you use them. When this happens, it's okay, it's just the cycle repeats again.
Do you till that in?
Actually, didn't till, no, I just kind of just piled a bunch of pine needles on top.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm lazy, I just go, yeah, pile more stuff on top. And once again, it does the trick. During the summer months, I'll let it just go to weed again. And as we kind of go through, what you're literally seeing is just kind of 8 years ago, and we're kind of moving forward in time, so. Here we go. This is our monarchs. Now this is the interesting thing too, especially when it comes to butterfly gardens. Please, please, please reach out to your county, see where the spray trucks routes are. Okay, that's one thing we kind of forget about, is the spray trucks. I actually had to stop planting milkweed. We were actually planting about 4 or 5 different varieties of milkweed in our pocket park. I had to stop because the spray trucks continued to come in. It was just a death sentence for our butterflies. So I actually had to stop planting milkweed. I finally was able to talk with a few commissioners, county commissioners, and we were able to kind of limit the amount of spraying. We were also able to kind of reroute. So we are replanting milkweeds again, but sadly the damage is already done to that local population. But that was one thing that one night I was just walking the dog and I went, oh, no wonder the caterpillars are dying and the butterflies are dying. Okay, so those are just things to kind of reach out. A lot of just connect with different departments and all that. This is another picture of our pocket park. In the background, actually, you'll see the little sign that's a monarch way station, as well as a backyard habitat. That's Kunti. That's an amazing plant. Almost went to extinction, actually. That was the very first gluten-free revolution. That happened right after the Civil War. Crescent City, actually, was one of the largest exporters for this. A lot of people call it arrowroot. So arrowroot flower. Yeah, that was the rave for a lot of folks up in New England, was gluten-free flour back in those days, and that's why we now plant that in our cities and also to our neighborhoods, because the plant almost went to extinction. Cool plant. Also really important as well for a butterfly, not that much of a butterfly expert. I can't think what the name of the butterfly is, but it requires this. It's a gold furniture, I just remember. Gold furniture. Birdhouses! This was funny. So my dad and I, we plant these birdhouses out there. These are mostly, we have scrub jays. We also have, there's another bird, but I can't think of it. We popped up about 12 boxes. This is really your first line of defense for any garden. So your birds are like little fighter jets. They're amazing. Sadly, the city took them all out. So they had no idea what they were, and they took them out. And I ended up having to save them from the garbage. And after a few talks with the commission, we ended up reinstalling them again. But we did lose about 3 or 4. So. Oh, well, that's one you can't see. Hey, that's another picture. So you got onions, kale, eggplant, collard greens, green beans, a bunch of other fun stuff. This right here, this is a ladybug. That's a ladybug pupa. So a lot of people don't realize what those are, but that's what that is. That's a juvenile lady beetle. Zucchini, cucumbers, what have you. As you notice in the background, I'm letting the weeds grow. See all the little white flowers? That's Vitamin Alba. Here's just a simple harvest. Cucumber, zucchini, yellow squash, green beans. Here's another plot as well. Here's another one. Here's a little sign. This is actually the second wave now. So our first wave of gardeners have come and gone. Here comes our second wave. This is probably a 5-year gap. For about 2 years, I was the only one there gardening. It was nice. It was quiet. I enjoyed it. But second one. during this time too, you know, I'm not necessarily in charge of it. There's different groups that are coming in. So we're having church groups, nonprofit groups come in, they kind of get it, and then they walk away from it. So this is just kind of wave after wave of folks kind of coming and going. But as Mr. Roberts said, just as long as you continue planting those beans, that's all that matters. Just keep this thing going, you know? This is an interesting situation. So this is entering into the garden. At this time, this is now after the second wave. I'm now still the only gardener in the garden. The 4-H garden used to be here. So 4-H came along and they said, well, you know, we would like to have a plot here. And so they took all this here. Was it used? Yeah, a little bit. You know, they used it a little bit. But then they came along and said, actually, we need our own garden. So we now actually have 2 gardens standing side by side to each other. I just thought it was a cool picture. So it's not every day you get to go underneath the tractor. There's Mr. Horton, that's Urban. That's one of our gardeners. Sadly to say, he just passed away not even about a year ago or so. But really an amazing gentleman. And he would come in and he would plant watermelons and squash and zucchinis and things of that nature. That's his dog, Caesar. So that's from a dog's perspective. Picture again, these are just zipper creams, tomatoes. You can tell my wife and I, we really like collard greens.
So Sean, go back one picture.
Yeah.
So,
this one?
yeah, Joe resident comes, hey, I wanna participate.
Yeah.
They get like a square back there.
You do,
They say,
yes,
"This is
you
yours."
do. Now, if you look at the plots in the back there, I did not create those. I do not encourage those size plots. The first reason that those plots are an issue is the paint. That's a bunch of micropollutants in your soil. You do not want that. The second issue too is treated lumber. You don't want treated lumber, okay? So those are all the kind of things that, you know, and once again, this was just another group that came in that said, hey, you know, we're taking over this thing. That lasted for about a year. And then of course I've been having to throw away and clean everything back up again. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, if you did, like 5-gallon buckets, is that an option?
You could. The only problem is, you know, you gotta remember, we are in the subtropics. So anytime you have any type of vertical surface like that, it's retaining heat, okay? So if I'm in Maryland, I'm up further north, I want that. That's warming my that's warming my soil. But because I'm down here, soil might get a little hot. So it's just something to kind of think about. But once again though, let's say we're in the shade, part shade, it might be beneficial. Okay, but yeah, that's the great thing about elevated beds, is that it helps retain heat. That's what that is.
And Sean, do you try to educate these people before
Yes.
they do these things?
Yes, no one will ever listen to
Mm.
That's human nature, you know, we all go, no, you know, I watched a YouTube video, but that's the joy of it. And there's not a wrong way or a right way. There isn't. It's just what works for you, you know? I get a little industrial when it comes to gardening. I find my inner Ford. So I'm like, okay, how many tomatoes can I produce? How much can I produce out of it? Other folks, you know, it's just for fun, you know? So there is no right or wrong way. That's the biggest thing.
Do you sell the extra produce or do you give it
No,
away?
I give it away, yeah, I give it away. So I have a few folks locally, a few older ladies. They're always, you know, hooting and hollering at me on the porch. And of course I bring over the bags, like, here you go. You know, they'll usually give me like a glass of tea or something. Yeah, no, I've never sold it. Now, Mr. Robert, he used to sell his collard greens, I think it was 25 cents a bag. But he was on Social Security, retired, military, et cetera. It was a little few pennies. And once again, I never had a problem with it. There was a few people that made a fuss. They went, you can't sell it. I go, yeah, you can, you know, it's not a big deal. And once again, it helps, you know, once again, you're looking at the local community. You're helping, you know, kind of keep through that cycle. This is our friend Xavier in the background. He's the one that I was talking about with the yucca and the moringa. That's the most amazing thing too. So my background in college is anthropology. And I have to say, especially when I started gardening, I was very ethnocentric. Everything needed to be in proper straight lines, you know? It's like I'm kind of thinking of this, you know, mid-Atlantic New England garden. Oh no. You get folks from the Caribbean, it looks like a massive, just, a box of weeds. But what they're doing though is that they're creating shelter, they're creating shade for the different plants that are underneath it. Something that I might perceive as a weed or something that doesn't look attractive, it's completely edible. So really, this is a place where different cultures begin to merge, you begin to share different foods, and it's just really, it's awesome. It's really cool. I never realized I would enjoy yucca as much as I do. And it's easier than growing a potato. It's so amazingly easy and simple.
So Sean, it sounds like the only thing that's been consistent has been you over the years, so you feel like, in hindsight, it really does need a champion that kind of can stick through thick and thin.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you don't, that's okay. As long as you allow a piece of land to just go follow. Even if you don't have someone that comes, it's okay, Once again, you just have to kind of relook at stuff, and you go, instead of just being a field full of weeds, it's a pollinator garden, You're doing the same thing as you're doing with a butterfly garden. It just aesthetically looks different.
And like you said, it's cyclical, people will come and go,
Yes.
people die off, other
Yes.
people come.
Yeah, it's age, we all get older.
But in terms of the aesthetics, though, this is not in a park, it's not downtown.
It's a little bit outside, right? So the park itself is it's a beautiful park. I think it's one of the most beautiful parks we have in town, but it's a park that very few know about.
Is that where the MLK Festival is down?
Yeah, right down there. Yeah, right across from Kurt Wright, the Kurt Wright Center. Once again, I mean, it was one way that we were able to kind of get in there. It was a place that most people said, who cares about it, But yeah, beautiful park. It's one of my favorite. And same thing, the water there is just crystal clear water quality. It's absolutely beautiful. So here's another plot as well. This is actually one of the most recent ones. You can
Is there a lake in the background?
It is, yep, that's Lake Willie. I actually had pictures here, but the city had just actually gotten done. We had this beautiful native vegetation all along the lakeside. City came in, they said, oh, that doesn't look attractive, and they ripped it all out. Sadly to say that dispersed our sandhill cranes, as well as our other native animals. Lakefronts aren't supposed to be mowed and everything trimmed and proper. That's not what Florida nature is. It will rebuild, it'll regrow, but it'll take some time. And sadly to say, when these kind of projects are done this way, just an absolute burnt earth campaign, if you will, just, kind of just destroying everything. This is actually what leads to invasive plants. So it'll be interesting to see. More sandhill cranes. You can see these are my buddies. If you notice too, they're getting closer and closer over the years. They're getting more and more comfortable. More gardening scenes. Like I said, a lot of garden scenes. I'm so sorry. Okay, now this is cool. This is the Lower East Side of New York. So one of the first things I did before I started gardening, I went around and I asked people. I visited other gardens. I went to other places. And especially the gardens who've been around for a while, you talk to the leader or you talk to the founder and you go, hi, I'd like to learn more about their garden. They usually go, what do you want? Because like I said, for these kind of projects, it takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of grit, and it's easy to kind of just lose faith, because same thing, you're seeing the different cycles and you're going, oh my goodness. What makes this story so important, here, I'll speak in the microphone again, sorry, is that the people off of Houston Street, these were your original guerrilla gardeners. So these are the people from the 60s and the 70s, and they took these sites of land that were just unsightly, and they began to just, throw what they call seed bombs. And you just take these seeds, and you throw them in there, you create wildflowers and trees or whatever. And a lot of these plots that they had designed and created were for vegetable gardens. Now that the Lower East Side has become gentrified over the last few years, what used to be amazing plots of gardens are now completely shaded by the buildings. So these gardens led to the growth of this area of New York, but sadly it's also led to the fall of it. And that was just one of those neat things, But yeah, that's one of the very first gardens there in New York City. But that's important too. Before you do any of this, go down to Sanford, go to any of your surrounding cities. Jacksonville, I know, has a few community gardens, Sarasota, St. Petersburg, and just talk to people. and get insight from them. A lot of times, they'll be a little cold, but it's okay.
You mentioned Sanford, what's going on in Sanford? I was there for a long time.
Yeah, Sanford has a really nice community garden there.
Yes,
So it just ask and talk to people, look at it, see what works, what doesn't. Yeah. More butterfly pictures. Monarch. There's our little bumblebees. This is actually a European bee. This is from one of our local apiaries. What's really cool is our apiaries, they'll put a little dot of paint on their bees. And I'll actually keep track of them sometimes, and I'll find the apiarist and I'll talk to them and go, oh yeah, I saw some of your bees and this and that. And they're really tickled to death because where we are, we're kind of we're close to the Ocala forest. So what's happened is that, especially with the recent growth, we've created almost these kind of urban corridors where there's really nothing there. And what's happening is they're almost creating walls. And so bees and such and other pollinators aren't able to jump over these walls. By having screen spaces, you're now creating islands. And now those bees are able to kind of hop from island to island, and now they're able to enter into the Ocala forest and create palmetto honey and such, when originally they wouldn't. So just keep in mind too, green spaces like this can actually help out your local economy. And that was one thing that, it took about 10 years for me to learn about that. That was kind of cool. I just was wondering, who kept painting their bees? I kind of figured that out. Come on, someone knows this. What kind of butterfly is this?
Not
Zebra.
lonely?
Long, yeah, there you go. There's one of our flower beds or flower pots on our street. This is, once again, Alexander Park. Yep, and then all the other pictures won't work. Darn, so you have to use your imagination. All right. So we talked about, talking to your neighbors, assessing the land. When your biggest thing about the assessment of land too, look at the history of the land. Is it a landfill? Is it an old industrial site? What have you? These things will kind of dictate with whether or not you grow food there or what other stuff you can do. Is there water? Is there electricity? Very rarely do you need electricity, but water is definitely a big one. Also too, with the assessment of the land, look at the people around it. So what do people want? Make sure you hold events. One of the neatest things you can do is you can have like a sidewalk event and you just give people chalk and you go, tell me what you want in the garden and let them draw it out on the sidewalk, or tell me the feeling you want from the garden. Do you want picnics? Do you want happiness? Whatever it might be. And it just kind of gets people involved. And also too, there's a sense of belonging, there's a sense of purpose. And that's really what all these are made for. This is what it's all designed for. When you do have any gardens, your butterfly garden, vegetable garden, heck, just planting a few trees, make sure you log the volunteer hours, track the hours. Not only does that give you more availability for grants in the future, but then also too, when the leadership roles, when you're having to start making decisions, look at the people who've done it, who've actually spent the hours. You don't want someone who's doing the social media account to start, designing and creating, a plan for something. You want the person who's actually down there reading, planting stuff. They'll tell you what works and what doesn't work, okay? Business support is a big one. Get your local businesses to support it. It can be just simply as, hey, will you be friends of the garden? Will you just come once a week and just water it? You don't need money. Just come on in and water it for us, Come on over, just make sure garbage is picked up. Or will you make sure the trash can's empty? Anything like that. And then also too, with the garden, make sure that, wherever your supporters are, that's where they have a free advertisement. So if the hardware store wants to help you out, make sure that every other week you're doing a blast out there saying, thank you so much, hardware store, thank you so much to this business, thank you so much to that business. You'll be amazed at what it creates. Finally, you've got 3 types of gardens, especially vegetable gardens. Your first one is an allotment. So allotment gardens is where everyone has their own individual beds. I'm a big fan of that, okay? Like you were saying before, sometimes you'll have just 2 or 3 people that are diehards, but everyone wants to be there for the photo op, or everyone wants to kind of take credit for the project. When you have allotments like that, people are able to trade with each other, but then also too, you reap what you sow, okay? Your second one is communal. That's where everyone shares in the bounty. However, you're only gonna have 2 or 3 people that do most of the hard work. Everyone will come out and actually come out for the food. And the third one is what I like to call the anarchy garden. Anarchy garden is really no one knows what's happening, no one knows what's going on. It's just kind of free for all. You'll come across this, especially a lot on college campuses. Don't be afraid that any type of project you have, it will go through these 3 stages, okay? It's okay, just go with the punches, roll with it. Because you'll find that, you'll have this great structure, this great organization to begin with, it kind of starts failing off, you'll now start having more of just, a handful of people doing it, and it just becomes complete anarchy, it'll come right back around again in the cycle. Those are my notes.
Thank you.
I hope that helps out, and I hope I didn't scare you.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. Do you have any questions for me at all, or any?
Just process.
Yeah, processing, I'm sorry, it's a lot, so. But I'm very excited for you.
Thank you very much.
You have a beautiful community. Yeah, I'm very impressed with this community coming in, I was just tickled to death. And I hope you grow even a better one in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
What is the name of your place?
The Peddler's Wagon.
Peddler's Wagon.
Home decor.
It's just Florida.
It's beautiful home decor.
37 years this year.
Okay.
We've survived Amazon.
The only business I was aware of that grew during the recession and grew during COVID.
Yes. Yeah. We've grown. But thank you all so much. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if the Women's Club is interested in having a garden space, but has insurance questions, I can talk to them about that.
Yeah.
I think that Sean pointed out, it'd be important to see if there are actually people who want to dig the dirt. A lot of people say, yeah, I love community, let's have one. But will you dig the dirt? Usually it's a no.
And a lot of them are very old, so, that's part of that.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong, people don't want to garden, they don't, they don't garden at their own home. Then they may want to garden, as you mentioned, we have 3 public housing areas, and they have a desire of no location. So that's a different story, they want to get out there. We just need to provide a space for them. And understand that it may go through aesthetic cycles of.
Yeah, that was what he explained, yeah. Okay, anybody has any comments? Yes?
I'm a public announcement. On April 14th, starting at 4:30, the Audubon Society is going to have a bird tour by kayak or canoe. And we will be meeting at Dexter Beach at 4:30, paddling south on Lake Stella at the little park there, then walking up to and observing the eagle's nest. So please join us.
What's
The
that?
14th?
14th?
The 14th, yes. I think we have 6 spots left. But again, we have the canoes and kayaks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Welcome.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. No?
See you down.
Do you have something, Pat, that you need to say?
Are we going to, form some kind of meeting with people that wanna help with this community garden? Are we gonna
You can make arrangements.
set up a meeting so we can go find the site, whether we have the money or not?
The Rotary and the
We can't,
Audubon?
I think the money is
Yes.
very important. We have to have that grant before we go walking around.
I think that the time moves along. I would recommend we walk around.
I think we recommend we walk around.
The sooner the better.
Okay,
I mean, I can still send in a letter, and you can still walk around and see what happens. I mean, we don't have to have The area, I'm pretty sure we don't have to have the area set in stone.
Okay, so,
Like, with those changes that I told you, you can just do that, and then as the letter goes out, you can go to each part, or you can figure out where you want it, and we can make an adjustment to it, but.
okay, so we will have to get with these clubs to see if they will wanna join us to walk around. So it's not only the tree and garden, it will be, Rotary, Audubon, and what was the other group? I forgot.
Us.
The three of us.
So I'll take care of two.
Okay,
It's already two of them.
Yeah, so just let me know and,
okay.
I'll be available.
We could do a Survey Monkey, so we send you a survey of dates, and you pick
Okay.
when you're available, and then she'll be able to see, okay, we got everybody on this one day.
My thing, and I'm gonna be upfront about this, my thing is I just don't wanna make this to be confusing, a battle, people don't want it here, don't want it there. I just wanted something simple, that's why I wrote the idea, and I just wanted to keep it simple, with not a lot of back and forth or conflict, so I just wanna be straight up. That's my only requirement.
There's no reason it can't be a positive, effort.
I want it to be positive.
And the great thing with exploring around and starting early is that, well, maybe we won't get the grant, but maybe we can put in another type or smaller garden elsewhere.
And the city's here to help us, the city's
Exactly.
here, hand on hand to help us, and I just wanna make that clear too.
And also Sean just gave a great presentation on gardens that take, after they're established, very little care.
Mhm.
I mean, I think we all like that idea.
That blew my mind twice a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a question. The new school that's going to be built, couldn't we do like a community garden there so that way the children could see it as well?
It's in the county.
It'll be up to the school board.
I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
just.
Oh,
Is that
another
maybe we
role.
can make it like a community homeschool thing, like just trying to bring everyone together?
It'd
And that
be
way
up
it's
to them.
not, like, that way we're not, I mean, other like, I don't know, so I was just thinking that way the kids can see it too.
My concern with that is sometimes schools are so strict with who can come in and out, and then the rest of the community might not be able to go in if it's a old man or.
Maybe, like, next to the school, or, you know what I mean, maybe not.
Yeah, I'm just,
So that way
Just
kids
now-
can still walk there, and they could do stuff there, I don't know.
I think it's an excellent idea, however, if you'll notice, new schools today have minimal landscaping for security reasons. But I think it should be explored.
We'll look at it.
meeting is adjourned.
Keith, a quick update.
Yeah, I just wanna let y'all know that they will be removing the trees on Main Street April the 13th, which is on a Saturday, per Mr. Lippy's recommendations.
This the two next to Commissioner.
Just to be there.
It broke off, the tops broke off of them.
So they will be removing them the 13th,
The trees are gone,
per Mr. Lippy's recommendations. They're hollow and they need to come down.
And that's it.
And
Okay.
also, when you're out looking for this site, please let me know, because it depends on if we can get water there. We don't wanna have to spend a bunch of money trying to run a line to the garden. So it has to be somewhere that I can get water there fairly easy, not with a big expense.
So are you gonna walk with us? Sorry, just a joke.
Send me pictures.
So he did bring up a question of, does the city spray? I mean, I know the mosquito
No, ma'am.
clobbers, it's the
No.
county, right?
No, the county
It's
don't,
They don't
they don't
either?
spray in town anymore. They don't even hardly spray out in the county.
Okay.
That's a good thing. So, and you can also, we can make it a no spray zone. You can, where it's gonna be, you can put signs up and make sure it's a no spray zone. That's basically what they did out there when Skip had his grove. That was a no spray zone back when they did spray for mosquitoes.
Okay, we done, now I can hit this button.
You're
No
too.
drama.
You're really
Meeting
wanting to
is
hit that thing.
Nice to hit something with that, I think.